Just imagine you won the lottery and are given $15 million and are now able to spend that money on anything you want. Would you buy a mansion in a wealthy neighborhood, or perhaps buy a classic Porsche? Or what about a nice yacht to cruise on during the weekends? Well, that's what most people would buy, but if you are like us, absolute motorsport fanatics, then a Formula One car might be what you are after. A race-ready Formula One car can cost up to $15 million. And that's even before you factor in a pit stop crew and the mechanics who are needed to operate a Formula One car. As explained in an earlier video, we know Formula One is an extremely expensive sport, but what is it exactly about a modern Formula One car that makes it cost about the same as 500 Mini Coopers? Well, stay around for the next 8 minutes or so as we dive into exactly that. Before we dive into why they are so expensive, let's have a look at the different parts of the car and see just how much they are worth each. We will start our analysis at the front of the car, which of course is the front wing. A new front wing will come in at around $150,000. So you can imagine the man in charge of the books at Williams has been quite busy last season. Moving further down the car, we have the main body of the car, including the chassis. Also known as the monocoque, one chassis will cost you $600,000. That's well over the average house price in the UK to complete the shell of the car. A rear wing will cost a relatively cheap $85,000. So the total cost of the shell, known as the outside of the car, will already set you back $835,000. To make the car actually drivable, there are mechanical components needed, like the gearbox, fuel tank, hydraulics, and obviously a steering wheel. The gearbox will cost $400,000. The fuel tank, also known as the fuel cell, will cost $140,000. The hydraulic system will cost $170,000, and just the steering wheel around $50,000. This comes out to just under $1.6 million. Obviously, that already is a huge figure, but only around a tenth of the total cost. Of course, you need a set of tires, but that's only an extra $2,700. To keep the driver's head protected during a crash, the halo is needed. The halo comes in at $17,000. We aren't even close yet to the total cost off around $15 million, but we haven't talked about the most important part of Formula One car yet, being the engine, also known as the beating heart of a Formula One car. The cost of a Formula One engine depends on the manufacturer and the investment that has been put into its performance. On average, the cost of a Formula One engine sits around an insane $10.5 million. You probably would have expected the engine to be the most expensive part of the car, but not that it is actually 70% of the total cost. We will get onto why the engine is so expensive in a bit, but let us first compare the cost of a Formula One car to other motorsports cars. Formula One has always been known as the pinnacle of motorsport. The second, most expensive series to Formula One is interestingly MotoGP, which stands at around $4 million per motorbike, which does make sense since MotoGP is seen as the pinnacle of motorbike racing. Therefore, it is better to compare Formula One to other car or autosport series by the looks of IndyCar, LMP1, Formula E, and WRC. Looking at just the cost of one car per series, Formula One is by far the most expensive. However, that's not so surprising. Compared to the other series, Formula One is a much larger sport, since it has a broader audience and there is more money involved, while sports like IndyCar and Formula E are more designed to be relatively cheap to join and compete in. Now that you know the context behind what goes into the cost of a Formula One car, we can start looking into why these parts are so expensive to build and develop, and in particular, why is the engine so much more expensive than other parts on the car? The most obvious reason as to why it is expensive is the cost of the materials that are used to construct a Formula One car. As an example, the front wing will cost $150,000, since the material that is used, being carbon fiber, is very expensive to make. 90% of all parts that are on a modern Formula One car are made from this material. The reason that carbon fiber is being used so much is due to the fact that it is a very light material. which makes a car lighter and therefore faster, while also being a very strong material which can withstand high-speed impacts, so the protection of the driver is guaranteed. The components within a car, like brakes, are built using complex composite materials, which are able to withstand temperatures of up to 1,000 degrees Celsius. The engine is made of forged aluminum and iron-based alloys. Since this, it is more durable and lighter than steel. The use of these materials is one of the reasons why a Formula One car is so expensive, but that's not the whole story after all. Other motorsport series like LMP1 and Formula E use carbon fiber as well, but as you saw earlier, the price tag on these cars is dramatically lower. We are now going to talk about the stuff we don't see when looking at the car itself. The biggest reason a Formula One car is so expensive is due to the large-scale infrastructures that are needed to be able to actually build a Formula One car. Examples of these infrastructures are factories and ovens, which are needed to build each and every car part. To be more precise, we are referring to the various machines used to build every piece, from nuts and bolts to entire engine covers that are needed to build the car. Hundreds of computer programs and softwares are used to process the enormous amount of data, which is used in modern Formula One. While $15 million does sound like a lot of money, the total cost of the machinery and equipment that is used to build the cars is going to be much, much more. Once you add up the salaries of the engineers that work on developing the car's performance, we will start to see that the money that is spent on the operations and development will easily pass the $15 million, which the car actually is worth. As we have seen earlier, the cost of the engine takes up the majority of the cost of the car. The reason why a team invests the most of their money and resources into the manufacturing of the engine is because it is the most important part of the car. A Formula One engine has to be reliable and not break down during a race, while also maintaining the best performance. Therefore, teams can be seen spending upwards of $10 million on their engine, just to make it as fast and reliable as possible. And the Mercedes team is just an example of this. From 2014 to 2021, they won 7 constructor championships by investing their time and money into getting the most out of their engine. You might be confused about the total value of a Formula One car, which is around $15 million, but the amount of money that is spent on the operations is way more than that. This is because the money factored into the $15 million valuation of the car is based on the initial cost of building the car, including things like materials, machines, and everything else that is needed to build a Formula One car. Therefore, it is very hard to show you how the $15 million is split between materials, machinery, and salaries. So there you have it. Now you know why a modern Formula One car is so expensive. If you'd like any other videos about Formula One, such as how F1 teams make money or how much money the 2023 Formula One drivers will make, then head over to our channel. And be sure to let us know what you would buy with $15 million. And as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell to be reminded of any new videos.